Great, thank you. Thank you. We'd like
Jean,
everybody.
sorry to interrupt real quick. Hi, it's
Sure.
Elizabeth. I am in my post-shovel garb, so
Okay.
not my most glam this morning. I wonder if folks could just say hi and introduce themselves in the chat if we don't have time, unless we have time to go around real quick.
That would be fine. And then we'll also do that in the breakout groups as well in a little bit smaller sense. Let's see. We ask that people mute themselves while the presentation is going on. If you have questions, you can raise your hand using the reaction button down below. You can raise your hand, or you can put it into the chat, and Debbie will be monitoring the chat, and we will
she's muted
take
us.
questions throughout. Okay. And I think that's about it. So I'm going to be turning it over to two of our leaders of the LWV Colorado Climate Emergency Task Force. We have Sandy Vandehay and Elaine Rideout, who are both from the LWVCO League, but they are leading the task force at the state level. So welcome to both Sandy and Elaine for being here today. And I am going to turn it over. I think, Sandy, are you ready to share your screen, or maybe it was Elaine?
Not quite yet.
Not quite
So
yet.
we're,
Okay.
this will go
first.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're just going to give everybody an overview on the Climate Emergency Task Force, which is a statewide task force for the league here in Colorado. I'm going to start out with just a little background because I don't know how many people are aware of it or have a certain level of knowledge about it. So the task force, again, is a statewide league. It was formed, its formation was the summer of 2020. It was inspired by some climate caucuses that took place during the national convention that summer. And there were two caucuses that had to do with climate change, and they were sponsored by the National Climate Emergency Working Group, but had just recently formed at that time too. One was a presentation by Arapahoe Douglas, League of Women Voters, and it had to do with a climate emergency mobilization resolution, and that ended up being approved at the National Convention that summer. And there was also a presentation by the League of Women Voters of California, and they touched on that they and a few other states had the statewide task force to deal with climate change. And that's kind of what inspired some members from the LWVCO League that both Sandy and I are members of, to try and get the ball rolling on a statewide league for climate change here in Colorado. So that started again happening in the summer of 2020 and kind of went through the process of getting approved by the state and that type of thing and getting the ball rolling on that. So just an overview, there is a task force, a statewide task force. There's a 7-member steering committee for it that sends out periodic notifications on climate issues. And also we have monthly task force meetings as a whole. So we send out information and notices on that. There's Zoom meetings. They've been Zoom meetings since we started. They're usually the last Friday of the month, and you can see them posted on the state calendar. But again, they're usually the last Friday of the month. And that's an opportunity for members throughout the state to kind of connect and share information relative to climate and climate action here in Colorado. And so far, the task force, I believe, has members from 16 different leagues throughout the state. So Sandy's going to bring up the website. So if you're not familiar with it, we're just going to run down through that and give you a little overview of that.
Does everybody have that?
Not yet.
Oh, sorry, I didn't share screen. Sorry, my fault.
There we go.
Okay. Well, it was there and it disappeared. Sorry.
What happens?
There we go. Let me shrink that up. So when you go to the Colorado website, league website, we have a button right there, thanks to Barb Dungy, who happens to be on here also. So it's very easy to access. When you click that, you get access to the task force webpage that has, on the main page, there is information about our mission, the links. We'll kind of scroll through this. The mission, links to our teams, to resources, to federal resources. You kind of go through, I'll take it all the way to the bottom and then come back up. Taking action, meet the teams. The resources that we've listed there, some federal resources and some legislation, policy, and plans that are going on. So it's a little bit of everything. And that's kind of the format that the task force main page uses, and then the teams do also. So in our mission, I'm not going to read to you, but a couple of highlights. Our mission really is to inform and engage members across the state to promote collective actions, to coordinate with local leagues and other organizations to advocate for policies to help forestall and adapt to climate change, host forums for the Climate Emergency Task Force, and to facilitate the sharing of information. It's also to promote justice and equity. And our mission really is action, looking at what we can do to promote climate action across the state. We're going to take a peek at the teams. So we have right now 6 teams, and we're open. If someone wants to join and form another team with a different interest, that would be great. A couple that have been mentioned are fracking, air quality, those things. The members here. So we have an energy team, plastics, pollinator and regenerative agriculture, transportation, and water. We're going to take a peek at, let me wait before I go there. The teams meet independently. Weekly email goes out with links to information from National League and from different trade groups. Let's see, we're going to take a peek at the plastics team. And as you see, there's a link right there, and then that will take you to that particular team. The setup is very similar with the mission, the action, which composes their own page. They collected the content for it and the links. They have a contact person so that if someone wants to join or is interested in following up on something, they can contact the team. Right now, Plastics is working collaboratively with some environmental groups on supporting legislation for this session. The group is tweaking at this point. It hasn't been presented yet, but it's tweaking the Plastics Producers Responsibility Bill, similar to a couple of other states that have this. So we've been watching this since last summer, actually, and moving through that. Okay, we're going to go back to the main page and let Elaine. Elaine?
Okay, can you scroll up a little to the top
Okay.
of the page?
Top.
Yeah. So on the right-hand side, you can see there's a green box there. The transportation team had spent this past summer and fall following the greenhouse gas transportation planning rulemaking that was going on by the Transportation Commission and CDOT. And what had been in this place was an action alert for league members to write in comments on this rulemaking. The rule was actually approved in December. And I mean, it deals with greenhouse gases and mitigation measures and disproportionately impacted communities, a lot of things that CDOT maybe didn't give a thought to prior to this. So it was big rulemaking. So there's a couple of links there to what was written up on that final rule, and also kind of a thank you to those members that had clicked on this, and it would take them to a action alert, and it gave you some background on that rulemaking, and then some ideas about how to comment. And as part of that comment, I mean, we are a statewide task force, but for things like legislation, unless the LAC comes out in support of a particular piece of legislation, we have to write in as individuals. Like the task force can't write in representing the League of Women Voters. So it's just something to note there. So transportation is now looking at, there's supposed to be an electrification roadmap coming out for light duty vehicles, which are the kind of vehicles that you and I would be driving. They're also supposed to be doing something on a EV equity study. They'd already, I think in 2020, there was a EV study done by the state, and now they're looking at the equity portion of that. So we're kind of monitoring those right now to see what should be coming out in the near future, sometime over the next few months on those, that they'll have some draft chapters out for comment. So that's kind of what transportation's been up to. There's also, again, like there's a climate migration team, and they're connecting with what's happening at nationals on social justice. The energy team has been monitoring tri-state and what's going on at local state level there. There's a water team that's been following Colorado River issues as well as other major water issues. So, and again, as I think Sandy mentioned, we're certainly open to anybody who has some other interests in a topic and would like to form a team and see if we can't get other people interested that are on the task force who may want to join the task force. But the other thing I'll mention is pollinators up there. Lerma County already had a very, very active team as part of their local league up there. And we've just kind of played off that and used a lot of their information. And they've been doing a lot of the following of what's happening in terms of potential legislation that would affect pollinators. And, you know, having seen what they're doing, our JEFCO league now is doing our sustainability team that Sandy and I are doing a presentation for our local league in the spring on pollinators and give people an idea of some of the threats and what they can do as individuals as well as what we could do collectively. So this just kind of gives you an idea of what we're working on. Again, the task force is meant to be a collaborative effort to address climate issues that affect all corners of the state. So hopefully we can help spread the word on actions as individuals and legislation that's come up. We can work collectively, that type of thing, or educational forums. The task force did sponsor in this past December a public Zoom meeting by some of the state legislators, having them speak about what they saw, what was coming up in this legislative session that's happening right now. And of course, the task force is open to all league members. And what we post on our website is all open to the public as well. So I mean, that's kind of a quick overview. So we just wanted to open up if people had comments, questions, that type of thing.
Sandy, do you want to stop sharing and then we can see everybody's faces, and we may have to go back to it, but that'd be great.
No, I
There
don't.
you go.
So a question I had, who's heading the plastics group? Is that you, Sandy, or who's at the for the task force?
Well, I don't know who their leader is. Sandy Schuster,
Okay.
who is also on the steering committee. So the teams really function independently. They're setting up their own times. They're figuring out who's doing what. And the steering committee doesn't, they just, you know, make changes to their link on the website and then proceed. About every other month, we have a report in on what's going on with the teams. Sometimes some teams have a lot going on and others don't have as much, that kind of a thing. I'm sure Boulder has found out that there's a lot of good stuff out there, not just in Colorado, but nationwide. And JEFCO kept feeling like we're coming up with stuff all the time, but there's already a wealth of information to draw from. And Larimer County and Boulder both have climate teams, sustainability like teams that have things going on. So the opportunity for us was that JEFCO has that sustainability team that we're looking at JEFCO, all JEFCO's need. JEFCO just got a sustainability committee at this at the county level. So we've been monitoring them and testifying, well, speaking to them also. So that is one thing. And then that allows people, Elaine is on the transportation team, and the different people have different particular interests that they can delve into.
And just, I want to say one thing. If you go on the webpage and you look under plastics and you click on that team, there will be a contact for you there. If you have a question or want more information, and I do believe Sandy Schuster is the contact, happens to be the contact.
Yeah.
And then she could just, depending on the question or whatnot, like when I get a comment or my name is on for the transportation page, when somebody there, I've had a number of league members from throughout the state contacting me about various issues like electric school buses and things like that. You know, I'll refer back to our team and we'll decide how we need to respond to that.
Debbie, do we have any questions in the chat?
Yes, we do. Peggy's asking, is there a liaison between LAC and the task force?
There's, yeah, actually one of the steering committee members, Ann Sutton, is a LAC member. So she keeps us pretty up to date on what's going on, so we could add things to the monthly task force agenda that has to do with legislation, and we can update information on the webpage as well. So she's our primary liaison for the LAC.
One thing I was going to mention, both Debbie and I were on a Larimer County climate meeting. When was that, Debbie? Tuesday? I don't know, Wednesday, something like that.
On plastics, right?
Yeah, it was on plastics. And there is a bill that's going to be introduced that has not been introduced yet, which I think our local league could get around pretty quickly. It's around producer responsibility for packaging in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado has one of the lowest percentage of recycling in the country.
Yes.
Which is just, I can't believe it. But this bill will help establish recycling throughout the state. And I think this might, and EcoCycle was, representative from EcoCycle was the presenter at this meeting earlier this week. And I think it may be something that we want to get around not only locally, but this might be a bill that we really push throughout the state. So I don't know if anybody has any other thoughts about that, or where the task force kind of sits on that. I mean, are there particular pieces of legislation that you think all leagues across the state should be advocating for?
Yeah, and that producer responsibility is one of them. I don't think the LAC has officially said they have, well, it hasn't been introduced. Until it's introduced in legislation, they can't support it. But I mean, the expectation is that they will. And again, the plastics team as part of the task force has been working with a lot of those groups in trying to get legislation just like that on the floor, and hopefully move forward.
Jeanette, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, this is Jeanette Hillary. I'm with the Boulder League. I'm on LAC. The league on LAC has always followed plastics bills. And as soon as this is introduced, I am sure that we would take a position to support it. Either Amy Sherwood or myself. Amy's with the Arapahoe Douglas League. We tend to be the ones right now following any plastics or recycling legislation. Also, I'm the new head of the climate team here in Boulder, and we have a meeting the end of the month. So let me put that on the agenda as a topic of discussion of what the group might like to look at. So, and just reinforce that people can join the meetings for the state climate group.
Elizabeth, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just kind of covering several different, thinking about all of these different issues and where we are right now with state legislation. So in addition to the Boulder County League's Climate Action Team, and thank you, Jeanette, and thank you, Susan, for stepping in to help steer the ship. Sylvia Bernstein, who's not on the call this morning, I don't think, and a smaller group of league Boulder County members have been kind of putting together more of a plan just to make sure that I think on all of these topics at the state level and other, the plethora of other issues that we're advocating on during the legislative session, to just kind of do a smarter, not harder job of communicating out all of the different actual action alerts to our members. As I think we all know, people are not everybody's able to go to meetings, go to LAC meetings or go to T meetings, especially for some folks if they're during the day, during work hours or school hours. And so trying to make it easier for all of our members to be able to get engaged if you can't go to a committee meeting. Or even kind of go to the website and kind of peruse, what subtopics you're interested in. And so I just wanted to say, I mean, there is a strategy underway just to help kind of put in place a different practice for us to get those action alerts out. And I wonder, Elaine and others here kind of from state task force or other local members, just some conversation about what would help people get engaged and just like do those quick action alerts from the local lead perspective. Even if you can go to committee meetings, but I just kind of wanted to open that up because I think there's a lot of opportunities. We know a lot of people are interested in these issues. The other thing, a question, comment, and then I'm going to shush, is that some of our youth members could be great messengers. They're not going to be able to go to a meeting during the day, maybe not even in the evening, but if we really prioritize those voices, it could be an opportunity to say, hey, we know there's a hearing coming up. We need someone to write up testimony. We need somebody to deliver that. We need somebody to write an op-ed. We need somebody to generate a letter to the editor. Those are all great opportunities for people who can't go to committee meetings. So I think I've probably kind of hammered that point enough, but I think that continues to be our challenge, is to really diversify the voices that we're amplifying and promoting, and would love to just hear some ideas from Elaine and others and then local members as to how we can do that on this issue. I'm going to shush now. Thanks.
Elaine, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, we absolutely agree with you. And I think one of the primary thrusts of the task force is to try and reach those various corners and individuals and whatnot. And I think also to not reinvent the wheel. If we have certain leagues that have been working on an issue, and like the plastics teams, well, I can't keep up on everything that's going on with plastics, but that's what they're working on doing, and that they could educate the rest of us and gather ideas of how to reach out and what's the best way to do that. And I think all the leagues are trying to reach out to a broader, base, and whatever suggestion leagues members have, I mean, we should be looking at those and doing an evaluation of them, not just as a task force point of view, but I think in general for the league.
And I think
ahead,
one
Tanya.
thing that happened with transportation is when there was an issue, they did an alert on the task force page. And I'm not just pushing the task force. This could be on your website, Larimer County, wherever. We can, create that alert, and then the information goes out from there. And Boulder can put it on your website. But then there was a link to that gave people talking points. And oftentimes, because we haven't all been investigating every single issue, then you have things that you can write about, even if you're not an expert in that field. And that's really what we wanted. The more people that write in, I don't know if anyone was at the legislative day when we were in person downtown, and one of the legislators, a Republican, came over and spoke, and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name at this moment, but he said it's volume. You don't have to be eloquent. You don't have to be lengthy. It just needs a lot. And that's what they're going to respond to. So the more people we could get writing letters. Now, on a local level, you definitely want an editorial that speaks to whatever group. But if just emailing letters to all the legislators, kind of a thing. So we're hoping that can be, the plastics group is in connection, has been connecting with Larimer County. Lydia is on both Boulder and the task force. So those kinds of cross-pollination would be wonderful. The more voices, hopefully the more action.
Davey, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I had like two follow-up questions. Like a super beginner question, what is the LAC? Because I'm not familiar. And I guess a follow-up on like the discussion that's happening is that, as a younger person, like who I feel like is getting a sense that we are also like, I am really hungry for ways to get more engaged. And I think that point that was brought up by finding more ways to reach out other than like meetings like this. The first thing that comes to mind is social media, but that takes effort and skill to navigate and time to post things. But yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation and think about new ways we can reach out to people, like of the younger generation. Because I think I'm really like I'm really excited to be here and to learn about these meetings and stuff. But I know I'm a student right now, so I can't often attend a lot of these when school is in session. But yeah, just excited. And yeah, what is the LAC?
So the LAC stands for the Legislative Action Committee. So this is made up of leaguers across the state who follow the legislation, being introduced at during session, and they will study the legislation. They will determine whether or not we support it, oppose it, or that we don't have, any action on it. And they will testify. So they very closely follow what's going on and will put the league stamp of approval or on what's going on.
So it's like, is it a branch of the LWV, or is it a separate entity?
So it's part of the league.
Okay.
And it's kind of run by the Colorado.
Yeah.
But these are league members from across the state that are following the legislation, and they're on different committees following and testifying on that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We meet every year from January through May during the legislative session. And it is made up of league members from around the state. Generally, they tend to be from the metro area because when we could get into the Capitol and give testimony, it was easier if you came from the local Front Range leagues. But we are meeting virtually right now, and we have members from Durango and Ouray and Grand Junction who can give input. If they're really, and we cover all the topics that the league has in their program book. Environmental issues are only a small part of it. So we have a heavy social justice group. We cover housing, the justice system, education, higher education, just the gamut, and have really our financial situation. We have people who will follow the budget and what's the financing of different pieces of legislation that might come out that have a fiscal note. So it's really, and they write up testimony, they give testimony. It depends how critical it is. We try to send out action alerts on particular bills where there needs to be more attention given as Sandy said, we try to, the volume helps when it's a really piece of legislation that could be near and dear to the league's heart. But it's under the auspices of Colorado, even though we're all from different leagues.
Carolyn Hines, you had your hand up.
Yeah. I've been passionately against plastics for a long time. I think this expanding the amount of recycling across the state is so important because so many of our mountain communities don't have a place to recycle. But all of a sudden, I'm starting to see this push, and part of it's being led by one of our local large corporations, Ball Corporation, for, oh, don't use plastics, use aluminum. It is infinitely recyclable. Well, only if you actually put it in a recyclable bin. And in the meantime, aluminum uses so much energy and has such a bigger carbon footprint. And I get a little worried that when, we focus on this plastic piece, they're now using that to say, oh, we'll do aluminum, and I think we might do more harm. I'm assuming you guys are tracking that and making sure that we don't replace one with something that's even worse. The whole point would be cut down the use of any of those to the extent you can. But I just really worry because I hear more and more push on this aluminum.
Good point. Kay, you had your hand up.
There, I'm unmuted. Thanks for the question about the LAC. I used to work for a different LAC, which was the Legislative Audit Committee. And so that went, what? I had a kind of a thought that's a little far afield. So let me be a newcomer here and ask a newcomer kind of question. Does something resonate with you, any of you, all of you, that I'm so hungry for something real? I have a Zoom a day, and I'm also I'm a part of a U.S. Women's Caucus at the UN, and we just came off a big webinar about that with the Commission on the Status of Women coming up, and also with some ZATA action on climate change. However, one of the things that I'm here for with the League is action. And also, one thing occurs to me is showing that League members walk their talk. And just as an idea, do we have any way of getting visual representation of what we want people to do by us doing it in our communities? For example, I compost all the time. I could send a picture of me composting. Just some things, that just comes to my mind because I'm looking at my compost bin right outside. Some things that show us in real life, some things that put the issue in visual terms or something where we connect on I'm ready to go, hug my neighbor just to connect. I'm looking, and part of the whole environmental movement is let's be in touch with the earth. Let's be in touch with our resources that we're talking about destroying. So it's a whole different kind of come at it kind of idea. And am I coming way too far afield? Again, another pun. I'll quit.
I actually think that that's very much what Debbie was talking about. Social media can be used that way, whatever presence we can put out there. And I think a picture of you composting is a great idea. Digging in the dirt, whatever, recycling, all of those things. These are things that helps you connect to people right around you and to people, in Boulder, Golden, whatever also. So that is a great idea. And I'm very impressed because Boulder has the young group, and that isn't happening. It's happening, but not as much in JEFCO. We've been around for a really long time, but it doesn't mean that we are always getting younger people. you have the college there and that helps, but tapping into that, we haven't quite learned how to do that, and we could learn that from you. But it is a connection thing. How do we connect? And maybe, Debbie, if we connect more, as you said, we can pull some of that. We have one unit, we're broken into units, 6 of them, and we have one unit that meets at night because people used to work and whatever, and people still do work, but not a lot of our members do. Most of us are retired. So we'd love your input.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was following up, I think it was, I forget who said, like, that Republican representative, he said it's not content exactly, it's volume. And that is the same time as that's encouraging, it's kind of discouraging, because it's like, I think, you know, there's certain groups that are really good at volume. And I think tapping into that, I've been really resistant. I have like a small Etsy business. As a side story, but I've been really resistant into getting into TikTok. I'm really into Facebook, I'm really into Instagram, but I was like, TikTok is this, if for you who don't know, it's the next big app in our like millennial, 20-year-old, 18-year-old world. And it's like 5 3-second videos, and it's so disorienting, even for me. And I'm like, I don't know what this is doing to our brains. It can't be good. But what it is doing, it is reaching people. It is reaching a lot of eyes. And for whatever that's worth, that is volume. And so, yeah, it's figuring out ways of how we can engage with this tool of social media and this tool of technology in a positive light. It's a constant dance, and I'm still learning, but I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be that part of the League's mission. So yeah, just really excited in continuing this conversation.
Just quickly, I just want to clarify, he didn't say content didn't matter. It's just that you don't have to write a letter. It doesn't have to be
email.
Right. A short thing is good. 1 point.
Can I ask Debbie a question? How did you learn about the League, and what prompted you to join?
I am part of Interfaith Religious Alliance in Denver. It's this org. I'm a big part of my community of faith. We're a Buddhist community, and I just started this like activist Buddhist group. So I've just been searching for ways to learn more about different ways to connect. And I found the League. My mom mentioned that her mom was part of the League years ago. So I was like, hey, I want to be part of the League.
Glad to have you. I'm going to Gaithia and then Florence, and then we're going to kind of wrap this part up. So Gaithia, go ahead.
I would just say that my conjecture was that it's not just volume. And I think especially it's not the kind of emails that sometimes are churned out by some groups where everybody just hits send and their name gets tacked onto a form letter, that the kind of things that actually have resonance, or if it doesn't have to be long, but if there's something personal that engages you personally, that is going to have a lot more reach. And in terms of the League, one of the things we can do is reach out statewide, because sometimes being in Boulder County is a little less than influential with the state league as a legislature as a whole. And it's wonderful for them to hear from people in some outlying places or people in different communities than the city of Boulder.
Okay, I will say too, as part of the greenhouse gas rulemaking, there was a number of Zooms that CDOT did, and they would consistently mention about because they had numerous comment periods about how, it really resonated with them when people would put their personal stories, and this is how this affected me, and this is why I want something done, and this is what I think you should do. So, and that was one of the things we gave suggestions on when we told League members, if you're going to come in, here's the kinds of things you might want to focus on. Do you have a personal story related to this? And what is it? Because it does resonate with them and they do listen.
Florence, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, so I'm thinking about action alerts. I think it was Elizabeth who said earlier that we're going to try to be more efficient about the action alerts. And, in thinking about climate, hopefully there'll be more action alerts coming out about climate legislation. And in thinking about ways that Davy and other members' networks can be used, the action alerts, maybe it's worth saying a few things about the action alerts. They go out to league members, but can they be blasted out to the social networks of everybody? I mean, I don't really use social networks, so I've never thought about this before, but are the action alerts, they're nice succinct emails that come and say, here's a link, here's where but you can say this is the issue and this is how to influence legislation. It seems that one way to amplify would be to send those out to a wider network of people, but is that appropriate?
I don't know who they go out to. Elizabeth, do you know? If they go on, if they go out to our wider group.
The person that might know is Jeanette. Is Jeanette still on? She stepped away. But Jeanette Hillary would know where action alerts go.
Okay, because I just want to say, when I get an action alert, I take action. That's different enough, that's highlighted enough that in the barrage of material I get coming in on email, that's the one thing that I always follow through with, because it's not like I'm getting one every other day either. They're important and there's material behind it to back it up. So I think that sending those out to a wider group of people and asking a much wider group of people to take action would be really valuable. And that's a way that Davy, for instance, could step in right away and do some stuff.
Jeanette, you stepped away. We had a question for you on the action alerts. Do they just go to league members, or do they go to the broader group of contacts that, the state league, that would have?
Generally, the action alerts go to the league members because they are formed on league positions. Not that you can't share them with other people, to let them know what our position is, but it's generally the league.
Well, let me just say one more thing then it seems even more valuable, because the league, if the league has a position, it's a researched position, and the league is nonpartisan. So that alone, those two things alone, to me, mean that the action alerts are more valuable than all the other email I get about various causes.
Good point. Lydia, you're gonna bring us home.
It's true. It depends, we give good talking points when we send out our action alerts. And I'm sorry, Lydia. So, I think, you can know that you're sending out good information to other people.
I had two sort of brainstormy ideas that you can disregard if it doesn't resonate. But my thought was this thought from Kay and this thought from Debbie, sorry, I see your name and I know how you pronounce it, and it's different. This sort of a medium place of maybe doing some sort of a blog for different topics like climate action, where you can talk more personally, like say, I'm sending out an action alert, and this is part of my day of doing different composting and sending out this, and sort of you can have more of a personal story from different members if they enjoy writing, and then you could spotlight that on social media, as well as using social media for the action alerts. So instead of just all social media, maybe like an in-between of a thoughtful but written thing to connect people to who League of Women Voters is, instead of this abstract thing. Yeah, that's my thought.
I just have one last final thing. I have a list of family and friends that when we get action alerts, I send it to different groups that I know. My retired teachers group, I mean, I have my book club, all of those different groups get information from me, and nobody's complained yet. I mean, maybe they just ignore them all, but I do send them out to the public, and I agree that it needs to go to the public, and that is the only way we can do it as individuals, you know, is to send it to our family and friends. So
great. Thank you all. Good discussion. Elizabeth, do you want to give a little update on where we at from a local standpoint? Anything else that you wanted to share from a
I think just that. I mean, Jeanette is on here, Lydia, others as well, but just that, as Jeanette said earlier, Jeanette and Susan Saunders are helping kind of reboot maybe some of the climate action team, and big shout out again to Lydia, who has carried that torch for a while now. Thank you, Lydia. You're not gone, but very busy woman. So I think just watch for those, you know, meetings. And but again, Jeanette and Susan, please chime in if you agree or if you think otherwise. But we don't, you know, my perspective is we don't want to just create a long list of things to do, because there's a long list of things to do. But, you know, our core strength as a League of Women Voters is to take this, you know, take action on these policy issues. And we have a lot of opportunities to do that, and trying to really kind of look at the outcomes that we can uniquely move forward on climate. You know, how do we want people to engage and advocate at state legislative level? How do we want people to engage on climate issues at the local level in Boulder County? So there are some activities already in place that Jeanette and Susan can spell out. But I think really focusing on what our end goal is, even just for the next couple of years, and then kind of working backward into, you know, what our unique activities can be, makes me really excited. And yeah, there's the Susan just posted the next meeting time and date. If you can't make it, we have to just continue to always be better at meeting people right where they are. And so whatever ideas you have for engagement on this or any other issue through League of Women Voters of Boulder County, electronically or otherwise, we're always open to that as well.
Great.
That's all.
Yep. Thank you. Sandy and Elaine, I just wanted to thank you for joining us today. I think we've had a good discussion. We now have faces to name so that we can reach out directly if we have a particular thought or question. So thank you for joining us, and you can certainly stay with us. We've got a few more things to go through, but thank you again for being here.
thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over now to Gaithia to give us a quick update on where we're at with the state's position on election security.
Okay, so first, I don't do screen sharing. I was going to go to the Colorado League website there.
I can give it to you.
And so if you go to the Colorado League website, as Sandra said, their button was in the upper right corner. Ours, if you scroll down on the page, there's a tile in the middle that says election security. And if you click on that where it says view documents,
I just made you co-host, Gaithia, if you want to do that.
Okay.
So share your screen should be at the bottom.
Yeah, so let's see here. That's scary, Matt. I see a bunch of things on my, oh, there we are. Share that. Okay, so I'm on the League of Colorado website. Are you seeing that now? Because now I'm not seeing you.
Yep.
And then on the right-hand upper corner was the climate emergency. But if you scroll down to the middle, you see election security, get in there, you see view documents, and that is going to give the list of the documents for what I'm talking about, which is our new election security position, which we have now approved at the state level. So the first thing I want to address is, what is an election security position? I mean, what is a position statement anyway? How that works with the league. And that is the way our process is set up. We take actions on issues only when we have a position addressing that particular issue. And to get there, the members must share, do a study, and then come to a consensus, an agreement in public speaking meetings with other members. And so we have gone through this process at the state level on an issue we and our group think is important in improving our electoral system. And here in Colorado, we're fortunate to have one that is very secure, it's accessible and accountable with our mail-in ballots and risk limiting audits, but not all states have that. And in the work we've been doing with the Legislative Action Committee, there have been bills that come before us that are ones that we feel are actually would be make our system worse rather than better. And specifically, the one that came up last session had to do with voting if you're disabled. And the mission of the league is a dual thing. Where we want to empower voters, but we also want to protect our democracy. And the bill would have allowed anybody who said they were disabled to vote online. But online voting is just not as secure as a paper ballot, and it can't be audited or recounted if that audit shows it needs to be in the same manner. And so that is a problem. And so we have come up with a position statement, which we now have gotten approved at the state level. And that was at a meeting just last week that was, the vote was apparently unanimous. The way Zoom works when people are just not on, don't have their cameras on or they're muted, there were several people who did not vote. So we don't know if those count as abstentions or just people who were actually out in the kitchen getting themselves something to eat or who knows what. So our position draft is attempting to be guidelines that then the league can use in addressing future policies and future legislation that may come before our league. And then we would want to bring this to the national level. And so if you follow the steps that I just outlined, if you want to look at this in more detail on the Colorado website, again, it's in the tile, the little election security red square in the middle of the main page to get to these documents. And then our next steps are to bring this to the national level. So one of my big asks today is among people who are experienced league members and have contacts and connections with league members in other states and are interested in this position and want to help us move it to the national level, where we just think there's just an urgent need right now to protect our election system nationwide. We would love to be able to reach out to those people specifically, because we think that is a good way to get involvement from other states as we bring this to the national convention. And the National League Convention this year will be held in June, and it will be in Denver. And my understanding at the current time is it's going to be hybrid, partly online and partly in person. But it will be a good chance for Colorado to explain our election system with mail-in ballots and how safe and secure it is, and how much more accessible, how much more voter participation we get in our elections than many, many other states do. And then to promote this election security position in an attempt to give league members nationwide a strong basis for their advocacy. So with that, is there any questions or discussion?
Do you want to stop sharing, Gathia, and then we'll kind of open it up?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, now you come back again. Good.
And Jeanette, your hand was up.
Congratulations. This is so needed at this time. I think since the Colorado State League, get the board on the state level, obviously, they approve the consensus, and then they can and have a network to notify all the leagues in the country and sending out the position that we want to bring this information to national to put on the agenda for concurrence at the convention. So I think that would be a start. And then you could see if there would be other, when you send out the language to the different leagues, they'll know what you're doing, and then they can make the decision to join in pushing for this. So I think that would be great.
Yeah,
and if we do have
I was
friends
just
in other
meaning that it as there's the formal official ways of doing things, and then there are the informal push from the grass, because it's a grassroots organization, and this whole consensus process of bringing this to the attention of the national group is a grassroots effort. And of course, the league for 102 years now, this is our 102nd year, just began, has been working on elections and election voting rights and election security and chain of custody of ballots and all kinds of things related to that. There are some changes now that we have more technology that need to, and how we address those things. And then the National League also has a huge legal staff that is involved in lawsuits in some states where voting rights are being abrogated. So it's not like, it's not like we're working in a vacuum, but I think the more—
No, but this is—
the more—
this is a way for us to, because we're on a time limit by the time National needs to send out the information on the convention. And if we can get this out as soon as possible.
Right. And we actually have to have it into the national organization by March 1st. So that's the next big deadline for our group to hit. And we are working on the paperwork for that, which again, the league has this sort of formal process like we did with the state league, where we had the consensus questions to send it into national this weekend. We are working on a list of pros and cons of our position. We're working on a rationale as to why, statement as to why it is we need to bring this to the National League now. It's a system that the league has devised over many years, and it's a system that actually our group is pushing to expedite, which we feel is entirely possible, because it's like not a new topic. And we have a lot of experience in the league to draw on. We're also piggybacking on an effort by Oregon, which has a broader position involving all kinds of issues of privacy and security, of which the election part was just a component, and we're expanding on that. And so it's a process that I think, because of modern technology, the fact that we had the statewide meetings on Zoom, we didn't have to schedule meetings with each local league and drive out there and meet with them. We were able to do our research online. We were able to contact other groups, for example, the Disability National Federation for the Blind representatives from the Cross Disability Coalition, much more expeditiously than in the past. So that is, and we just think it's a really urgent issue. So that it's, to those of you who are league traditionalists, and the tradition was that the state leagues only met every other year. Ours is now meeting yearly, but you met every other year, and first you set up a study, and then you studied, and then 2 years later you came back and you started the process for creating a position. I just think we can't do that, but we can be effective. And I do want to thank everybody that participated in our processes, because we did get a lot of input from league members, and that much improved what we had. Elizabeth donated one word, rare, which actually was quite fitting to go in that statement. And as I said, we worked with the disabilities groups, trying to, as much as possible, ensure that we were empowering all voters, and everybody, recognizing that every voter has the right to vote privately and securely, but also recognizing that to vote securely and to allow certain rare individuals to do so online because they could not physically access a paper ballot means that we really have to be careful about not extending that to so many people that it becomes attraction for malware and hacking. And actually, that's the impetus for that comes from affecting the outcome of an election, having a sufficient volume of those voters that can affect the outcome of an election.
Right. Ruth, did you get your question answered?
I did.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for Gaithia? I just want to thank Gaithia and the team for, I mean, you guys pulled this together. Oh.
Sorry,
Elizabeth,
quick
go ahead.
comment, quick comment. I'll follow up, Gaithia, with you and Neil, but just, it seems to me that this, even though we don't want to, you know, the details, sometimes the niggly details of league process are not interesting to anyone in the outside world, and sometimes not even our own members. Just the fact that we have had such leadership on this issue from Gaithia and from Neil, I think we do need to let our community know about this. And so I feel as though this definitely warrants op-ed, you know, media pitch, that sort of thing, without putting the cart before the horse, you know, for the national process. But I just wanted to kind of get a sense from that, and obviously not signing you up for something, Gaithia, without your permission, but I feel like people should know. And this is one of these issues that, you know, we don't have such an urgent crisis here locally that we tend not to focus on that. But I think it's as important that our community knows the leadership that this organization, our members and our leaders, are taking nationally. So I just wanted to throw that out there kind of as a test balloon and see if folks agree or see that differently. And again, we'll talk to Gaithia and Neil kind of offline.
Yeah, I think it's part of making sure that the league remains relevant in the modern era, and that people like Debbie can, or Elizabeth, or that can be involved, or Lydia is another one, that we keep rejuvenating ourselves, that there was an era where the league became something that women denied access to full employment in the paid working sphere, often devoted their lives to the league. And that isn't the way the modern world works. The other thing I think that's interesting is there are apparently a lot, and rumor had it was 20, but that's not official, other proposals of position statements coming up from the league. And I think that kind of bubbling up grassroots activism is marvelous. And I think it is part of making the league responsive to its membership. And so I think I want to learn more about what those other groups are doing and see how we make the processes work in the modern era. And of course, we still have to make sure we're not overdoing it and having things that are rushed and ill-conceived and sort of seem great at that instant, but don't stand the test of time. So I think actually, my background's in industrial quality assurance. I'm always thinking of guidelines and protocols. So maybe we can discuss that later.
Thank you, Gaithia. Thank you. And thank you for the team's work on this. It's been awesome. I am now going to turn it over to Ruth Stemler, who is our development director, to talk about fund development.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean. We have a very brief commercial message in every one of our meetings. I put my email contact into the chat a little bit too early because I can't do two or three things at once, but my email contact is in the chat. Good morning, everyone. As you may or may not know, the League of Women Voters of Boulder County is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and programmatically this year we've renewed our programmatic byline, and we are Women Powering Democracy. I love that. Your dues and donations are tax deductible to League of Women Voters of Boulder County. Our expense budget is $73,000 a year. Your dues pay for 10% of that. And then we have to raise at the county level $65,000 a year. It takes all of us to contribute, and we so appreciate the people on this, in this meeting, on this Zoom meeting. I see some very, very generous individuals on this call, and we thank you for what you have done. Here are 7 donation ideas for you. Number 1 are recurring donations. Go to our website and please contribute a small amount each month. It can be $5, it can be $10, it can be $20 a month, but that can really count up. This year, we're going to get about $4,000. Our goal for recurring donations is $12,000. So we've got a ways to go. Number 2, you can give in honor of someone. Is there someone in the league that you really, really honor, really appreciate their work? Admire, that's the word I'm looking for. You really admire their work. You could give a gift in honor of someone that you really admire their work in the league. Go to our website and there is a donation category for that. Number 3, shopping opportunities for the League of Women Voters of Boulder County. If you shop at King Soopers, you can donate. If you shop at Safeway, if you shop on Amazon Smile, on all of those locations, you can contribute to the League of Women Voters of Boulder County. So if you don't know how to do that, we would be glad to help you with a shopping opportunity, and contact me if you need a Safeway card. Number 4, Facebook fundraisers. We know that social media can be really important in this new world. Our president, Elizabeth Crow, for her birthday in January, did a Facebook fundraiser. She raised $500. Did you hear me? She raised $500. This is easy. And so if you are passionate about the League of Women Voters, which I think everybody on this call is, would you consider a Facebook fundraiser? Because if you're passionate, your family and friends are probably wanting to help with something that you care about. So think about a Facebook fundraiser. Grant writing. Do you know how to write grants? We need some volunteers to help us write grants. We're going to write some more over the next year. Would you help us? Please contact me if you might have some skills or some experience in that area. We're also going to do some house parties, we hope, this spring. So if your house would host a house party for the League of Women Voters of Boulder County, we'd like to hear from you. We'll help you with it. We've got printed guidelines, and this would be a party you would have in your house, and you would ask people there to donate some money to the league. Ann Bryan is on the call. She and I are meeting individuals with members who would like to discuss legacy gifts. You could also give a legacy gift to the league, and that means when you pass away, sorry to use that word, but you put the League of Women Voters in your official documents, and then some money is left behind for the League of Women Voters. This last month, we got $5,000 from a family who there was a legacy gift for the League of Women Voters. $5,000 is a big deal to us. So thank you. As I said, there are many generous individuals on this call. Thank you for your consideration and your generosity.
Ruth, I just thought you might want to mention we just put out in the last voter a couple of opportunities to sponsor.
Yes, thank you, Jean.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell about those, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay, on our website, we're going to do a couple of things in the near future. We are going to participate in Boulder County in a Doing Democracy Day with the St. Vrain Valley School District. Our participation in that, we try to support at $250. We've done it for years. It's our way to reach out to students. You can go on our website and you can, in part or in whole, support the $250 that will help us in doing Democracy Day with St. Vrain Valley School District students. The second one is our league gives a $500 scholarship every year to a student member. I think we now have 9 student members. Is that right, Jean?
We may be at 10 now.
We may be at 10. So we try to get Debbie Vink spearheaded the effort to give a scholarship to students every year. It's that time again, we're accepting applications. It's $500. If you're interested in education, you could go on our website and say, I will support this effort in part or in total. So there are 2 youth student opportunities for you to support the work of the league. Thanks, Jean, for reminding me.
Any questions for Ruth? So thank you, Ruth and Ann and your team and everybody else that's on the fund development.
Yeah, Peggy's on the team. Peggy's on the team too. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead,
And
Florence.
that is how much is the league membership, the basic price? I'm looking on our website now and I'm not seeing it. There's a lot about